Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast, part of the Bet Rivers Network. An email show today, a big football Friday show with big games abounding, Saturday games this week. Plus, remember, you have the college playoffs. Forget the bowls. The bowls have been just completely obliterated. There's like 2 bowl games that you could even care about. But you do have the playoff games, the first round of that. You have Saturday football now the next couple of weeks, wall to wall. The NFL really lost a lot of its Christmas Day impact with what happened. The Cowboys are out of it, so that Dallas Washington game has no meaning. And then you have the Kansas City game against Denver, which Denver will be an enormous favorite now uh, against them. And Denver obviously playing for the 1 seed, wanting that 1 seed desperately. Want all the roads to go through there as Sean starts to think about that this team can actually get to a Super Bowl this year, and I think he really believes it can. Um, so clearly, a very different year in the NFL, and the injuries have played an enormous part of this season. They're always a part of every NFL season. We always talk of the war of attrition, but this year there have been so many devastating injuries to key performers, so many ACL injuries, and then of course the Mahomes injury, and let's be honest, that's an enormous impact on the playoffs. This is one of the people don't realize it yet because it's real time. This is one of the greatest players in the history of the league. There's no whether you think people fawn over him on TV or whatever, it doesn't matter. This guy is one of the greatest performers in the history of the National Football League. There's no question about it. He will go down as one of the greats of all time. He has already established that. He's already an immortal player. If he never does anything else, he already is that. And it will be a very, very big achievement if he ever gets another run. I would say if you were going to wager on whether or not Andy and Mahomes would have another Super Bowl visit, I would say wager against it. The odds are strongly against it of him coming back 100% from what was a very serious knee injury, and he already had surgery. Um, and then rebuilding this team because it's very hard to do when the nucleus of that team, the core, which is Andy, Spags, who I think will stay. I don't think he'll get a head coaching job. I think he would take one, but I don't think he'll get one. Um, and Mahomes. Chris Jones's best days are gone. Kelsey's going to retire. I'd be stunned if he doesn't. Um, the hard thing is to not try to fix it on the run. Don't give up 25 as you try to fix it. It's the wrong way to do it. The right way to do it is to break it down and then rebuild it so that yes, rebuild that offensive line. Yes, rebuild the team from the ground up with Mahomes and Reed still part of it. And if it takes them a couple of years to return to the playoffs, so be it. When they get back, they'll be good. But the odds are that's not the way they're going to do this because human nature steps in. So it'll be fascinating to watch. It really will. The Parsons injury. Clearly, Green Bay went from being a couple of minutes away from a 1 seed to now wondering about what their future is this year. The Adams injury, which is a hamstring, not an ACL, but it looked to be a serious hamstring. He went down like he was shot. And he went just, on the route, looked like had beat the defender and then went just straight to the ground. I would be stunned. I would think he has a serious, multi-week hamstring injury. Um, let me also say that um, you wonder the role sports plays, and I've always talked about living in the toy department. Last weekend showed you that how many times over as the bad news just came in waves First, the tragedy of Brown, then the horrors that went on in Sydney, and then what went on in Hollywood or Brentwood. Just one after another after another. It just, and we are so anesthetized, so numbed to the bad news. We are so used to it. We have built up such a tolerance to it that some of it just goes in one ear and out the other. I say to someone, "Did you see this?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Sickening, sickening." And that's why you have things like the NFL. That's why you have worry about silly things like the Yankees and the Mets, and whether you're going to get a quarterback or what's going to go on in the draft, and what the draft order is going to be, and all the silly things we worry about. But it's a release and an escape that we need desperately, desperately need. All right, email time. First, let me tell you, sign up for the free Mike Francesa newsletter. You get exclusive content, contests, offers. Go to the MikeFrancesAPodcast.com and sign up. And remember that it's absolutely free. Now, Bet Rivers players who place the same game parlay of at least $10 on NFL or NCAA football games will receive an entry into the weekly Squares game. Winning Squares can earn up to $50 bonus bet per entry. See the Bet Rivers app or website for more details. We try to get to the emails. They pile up. We know people like us to answer them, so let's get to some right now. Remember, you can send your emails to MikeFrancesAPodcast@gmail.com. David starts us off. If the Giants move on from Joe Shane and end up with the first or second overall pick, well, I think the Giants will end up, if I had to predict, I think they will end up with the second or third pick. I do not think they'll have the first pick. I don't see the Raiders winning another game. So I think the Giants will. And I think Tennessee could slip ahead of them also. So I think if I had to guess, I think they're going to end up with the third pick. Will they move on from Shane? I think they will. Yes, I think they will. I think they will start anew. I think that will happen. Do you believe a new regime may look to trade Jackson Dart? Where did that come from? Why would they trade? So the premise is they're going to trade Dart and take another quarterback at the top of the draft? I don't know. I even understand. I mean, I think that's almost a silly question, to be honest with you. The Giants, if you understand anything that's going on inside the Giant franchise, they are, I'll use the word smitten with Dart. They think they have found their quarterback. To a man, they think they have found their quarterback. There will be no trading of Jackson Dart. So I think that's almost silly. Roy, is Mendoza the worst Heisman winner in the last 20 years? If you had a vote, would you have given it to Diego Pavia? No. I voted for over 40 years. I just felt it was time to give up my vote because I'm a believer that if you keep these things like afternoon drive, which I could still be in today if I had wanted to, or the Heisman vote, there comes a time where you move on to give somebody else an opportunity. As much as you don't want to do it, I still follow college football I could easily vote for the Heisman. I am still better qualified than a lot of the Heisman voters are. Many of the Heisman voters are not qualified at all. it is often a popularity contest, and one that's often broken down regionally. Now, back to your original question: was Mendoza a weak candidate? Yes. Was it a weak Heisman group? Yes. But remember something: when people get on Mendoza, oh, he didn't look how many times he threw for 300 yards. I think only once this year. Oh, look at his overall stats. Well, wait a second. If a guy loses games, you say, "Oh, you're just going by his stats. You ran him up against bad teams. He threw 7 touchdown passes against blah, blah, blah." Well, he didn't do that. But what he did do, he won all his games. And he made plays, Penn State, Ohio State, when the game was on the line. Did the wide receiver make an amazing catch in the Penn State game to save him? Yes, he did. He did. He made an amazing catch. But in the Ohio State game, despite the fact I still believe Ohio State was not full throttle, and I don't mean to take anything away from Indiana, I just believe that. And Indiana, I hope, gets another chance to prove that we were wrong about that. Um, he made the plays. Made the plays the Decker that he had to make. And that's what you ask a quarterback to do. Get your team into the end zone when the game's on the line, and that's what he did. So I have no problem with him winning the Heisman Trophy. Now, as far as the Vanderbilt quarterback, who should be ashamed of himself for how he acted after the Heisman, ashamed of himself for how he acted. It's a privilege to be there and be a Heisman candidate. He acted really badly. Now, uh, he's a fun player. He is a fun college quarterback who is a college quarterback. They come along. I can give you them chapter and verse through the years. Um, there have been many of them. They use their legs, they use their guile, they use their escapability. They are not prototypical franchise quarterbacks as far as the NFL is concerned. Who would I have voted for? I thought the best player in the country this year was either Love or a defensive player. That's how I'd probably say it was Love. Neil, do you think the NBA Cup is becoming as important as the NBA Finals? Now, Neil's trying to tee me up here, folks. This is too obvious. Okay, I'm not jumping for the bait. He's trying to tee me up. I don't like this event. I think this cheapens, and I understand they're rethinking the event and the competition. I know the first thing they want to do is put it on a home court where it should be today, but not in Vegas. Do I think anybody listen, if the New York Knicks hang that banner, it will make me very cross. That's all I would say. I would be very, very opposed to them hanging that banner should they beat the Spurs, win the game, trash the banner. Please. Just win the game, but trash the banner. The competition just cheapens the regular season. That's all it does, and tells you how little they value their own regular season. To have to make different color courts and create a competition inside the competition, which is just mind-bogglingly bad. Robert, how do the Mets save the offseason? Listen, Stearns is not trying to save the offseason, and I'm not here to defend Stearns. And he did a lousy job with the pitching last year. And I don't know yet if he's talented enough to build the championship team. I don't know that. I'm gonna watch along with everybody else. But let me say this, what he is doing is building a team. He was brought here to build a team. The team had a lot of success the first year he was here, so he had to be patient. He traded away popular players, he may trade away more. There have been rumors of Lindor going in a blockbuster trade to San Diego. I know they very much want Mason Miller, so do other people. He is building a different kind of team, an athletic team that is a defense and pitching team rather than the team that he had. He did not think the team that he had was a championship team, and it wasn't. I understand that they have traded away popular players, which have annoyed the fans. Is the idea to keep your popular players and sign them long term, or is the idea to win titles? You tell me. You're the fan. You can have it either way. You're the fan. If you want to rather have a player here and cherish him and try to win with him, and if he doesn't, great, I still love him, and I still love my team, or do you want to build a championship team? Because they were not on their way to being a championship team. Now, I don't know that you're gonna like the product he builds this year. It looks to me like this product is going to take form into the season. It's not going to be completed this winter because he, I believe, is going to give youngsters a chance to compete for jobs, still knowing that he can go out in the first half of the season and move for veteran players if his youngsters don't come through. That's not gonna answer all the questions. If the Mets think that they're gonna open spring training and say, "Now I can look at exactly what my team is and what my vision is," I don't think that's gonna be possible, to be honest with you. There's gonna be moves, and there might be major ones. There've been a lot of rumors about trades. Trades with Milwaukee, trades with San Diego. I have been told by somebody that I trust that Tatis is not coming to the Mets under any circumstances. Now that's what I was told. Someone who I know knows Tatis well and said that Tatis is not. They have been told that Tatis will not be part of any deals. That's what I have been told. So I don't know. Maybe that doesn't turn out, but that's I trust the person who told me. They have told me in the past has been accurate. So for the almost always. So I would take that, and feel comfortable with it. Um, listen, they need bullpen help. They need starting pitching. They need to make decisions about the youngsters in their starting rotation, which are prospects and which are keepers. We know one's a keeper. What about the others? Do they attack and try to make the big move like Skubal? There are a lot of ways the Mets can attack this. I think they need a big outfielder. I don't think they are gonna be in the Tucker market. I don't think either of the New York teams are gonna be in the Tucker market. I know the Yankees aren't. The Yankees expect to get Bellinger back. I think the Mets are also in the market for Bellinger. I think Bellinger knows, though, that he's gonna hit a lot fewer home runs in Queens than he is in the Bronx. The Bronx fit him to a T. He clearly liked being a Yankee. I think it's gonna have to they're gonna have some other team, whether it's the Mets or somebody else, is gonna have to blow him away with terms because I think he wants to return to the Yankees, all things being equal. Now, sometimes all things aren't equal. There are times when things aren't equal, and then he winds up going somewhere else. The Mets are going to have a completely new look. Hey, the idea that they could come back and not have Diaz, Alonso, Nimmo, and maybe even Lindor tells you that they are a completely different team, except for the right fielder, who now the team is built around. My understanding is that I checked into it. Lindor and Soto was never a buddy buddy. It was never Soto and Judge. Soto loved Judge. Judge went out of his way to treat Soto very well in every way. He was a wonderful teammate. Soto loved Judge. And my understanding is Lindor and Soto got off on the wrong foot when Lindor did not call him and welcome him to the team. But it was never that they couldn't play together or anything major. The Nimmo Lindor thing, my understanding was political. Had to do with Trump. One side liked Trump, one side didn't like Trump. So Trump's splitting up it's between Nimmo and Lindor. That's my understanding. It started over Trump, as crazy as that sounds. Crazier things have happened. Um, but the idea that that teams can't perform well and dislike each other, I can take you back to, some of the best teams in baseball history that they couldn't stand each other. The 77, 78 Yankees, you were never gonna invite them to Thanksgiving dinner together. Same thing with the Oakland A's of the early '70s. Jealousies, disagreements, just pure dislike. Different lifestyles, '86 Mets. I mean, so, hey, it does not mean you cannot play this sport that way. You can. See, baseball is a little different in that you don't have to have what you need in football, where, let's be honest, you have leaders. You have a defensive leader if you have a great defensive player. You have the quarterback, especially if he's a premier quarterback, be the leader of your team. And your head coach has a tremendous amount of setting a tone with a football team, much so than anybody does with any other team. I mean, yes, Pat Riley set tones with his basketball teams. Dominant coaches, dominant personalities set tones all the time. Sean Payton sets a tone with his football team. Basketball, I mean, Popovich set a tone with his basketball team. Riley, when he coached, set a tone with his basketball team. Baseball's a little different. It's an individual game played inside a team concept. But this thing is, you can't have somebody go up and, fight off a 2-0 pitch for you and set you up to hit a ball up the gap. I mean, it doesn't work that way. Nobody can throw a block for you. It's an individual game. There's certain things you have to do yourself. But it's still played inside a team concept. And you see what role players mean. Just look at the Dodgers, even with all their great players, how the role players stood out so dramatically in giving them a championship this year. So back to the Mets and the premise. I think the one thing that I'm realizing is that this is going to be an ongoing process into the season. You're not going to get all your answers before spring training. Doug, what are the Yankees waiting to do? The Yankees know that they have a great pitching foundation on this team. They have the best player in baseball as their anchor. They have not addressed their problems. Will they address their problems? Remains to be seen. McMahon gives you defense on the left side of the infield. Obviously, they wanted Rosario so that he could play against certain lefties because he kills left-handed pitching. And he can play, and then you bring McMahon in the game late, even on those days, because he's such a brilliant fielder. And he'll hit his 15 home runs, even though he might strike out a lot and he won't hit good pitching. But a lot of guys don't. I think it tells you a lot of where the Yankees are going, tells you a lot of whether or not they have Chisholm at second base or they trade him. The Yankees clearly want to upgrade the bullpen. They know they have tremendous starting pitching. They clearly want Bellinger back, and they are going to have to make a decision if they don't. The problem with the Yankees is the same thing it's been for a while. They have a logjam of DHs. Rice is a DH. Stanton obviously is a DH. Judge needs days where he DHs, and Dominguez is a DH. So you can't count on Dominguez. Dominguez doesn't has not proven he can field, and he has not proven he can hit right-handed. How is he a given? He is not a given. Spencer Jones, who has immense power but strikes out a lot, even in the minor leagues, a lot, is not a given. The Yankees have right now, the Yankees have a if everything went wrong, they have an 85 win team. If everything goes right, they have a 95 win team. The question is, do they have a championship team? The answer is not yet. They do not have that. Now, if they add a couple of pieces and get the right pieces, bullpen, the right pieces, and move the pieces around. I had thought there was a chance the Yankees were going to surprise. I don't think they're going to now. Everything I've hear is that they're not going to surprise. They just want Bellinger back, and then they might make a trade. Trism could get traded. Other than that, you know what the team is, and I'll tell you right now, they need a lot. They're putting a lot of pressure on Rice. They really are. A lot. And it's gonna be interesting to see how they react if Bellin see, the Mets can react in a million ways right now. There's so many teams the Mets can make trades with. There's so many players out there the Mets can get. Yes, the Mets need outfielders. Yes, they need power. Yes, they need bullpen help. They have so many openings right now that they can go in a million different ways, as they went with Polanco. Polanco, to me, is not a foundation guy. He's an addition guy. He gives them versatility, and they think he gives them you can see the Mets want guys who can play the game at a high level and play the game the right way. Polanco, Seaman, they wanna have guys who can play the game a certain way. That's gonna be their approach. They're gonna look to play the game at a very, very definitive way, and you can see that with by the kind of guys that they're bringing into the franchise. But they have a lot of other faces to bring in, so let's see how it adds up, and like I said, I think it's not gonna be finished when the season starts. I think it's gonna be an ongoing process into the first third of the season because they are going to give kids a chance. And will they, won't they? They will react either way. Remember, they have the resources to be flexible and to still be able to they are highly capable of moving in season where other teams are not because of their resources. Yankees, I think you know a lot of who they are. There's a couple of questions. Chisholm, Bellinger, does he come back? Bullpen. Those are ones that have to be answered. And listen, we all know there's a lot of people out there chasing the same player. We'll see who gets him. It still remains to be seen. Baseball, as we have seen here, moves very, very slowly. Phil, how do you think Alonso will do in Baltimore? He'll do great. Stadium is perfect for him. Perfect for him. He can hit the ball out of the ballpark in any first of all, he can hit the ball out of any ballpark in any direction, but that park is gonna play well to him. I think that team and that lineup, as they try to compete, contend, show that they wanna do that, uh, I think he will fit that lineup well. I think he will fit that, fan base well. I think he will fit the stadium well. I think he will do very well there. I think the Mets are going to admit at some point, and Stearns is gonna have to admit at some point, "I was wrong. This guy had a better ability to carry his power and carry his effectiveness later into his career than I thought he would. And I think he will. He's durable. He plays all the time. He wants to play every day. He's clutch. He was a heck of a player for the Mets. He really was. And last year, after all the indignities of the year before, he had a terrific season. He was the Mets' best player last year. Alonso came on and did. I mean, Soto came on and did some things, but let's be honest, Pete was their best player. Start to finish, he was their best player last year. Joey, is this the worst Jets season you can remember? Joey, that takes in such enormous ground. I was thinking this as I watched Aaron Rodgers last night go 23 for 27, pick Miami apart as he started what will be the first big step or the next big step towards taking the Steelers to the postseason. Barring something very strange, Aaron Rodgers is going to play in a playoff game this year in the NFL, maybe more than one. You saw him last night. I thought the last two games he has looked crisper and more in control than he had at any point this season, and that still is very, very good. That means pinpoint passes. That means moving the team down the field. That means taking advantage of every, drawing teams off sides and taking, the advantage when people have. I mean, last night, he was the one guy who knew that there were 12 guys on the field. The officials didn't know it. The sidelines didn't know it. There was one guy in that stadium who was adamant that there had been 12 guys on that field, and he was proved right. You saw him screaming. They're all looking at him. They're almost on to the next play, and he's saying 12 men on the field. And Dom, if the assist didn't prove that there were 12 men on the field, he doesn't miss those plays ever, ever, and he can still put the ball on a dime. He's old. He has no mobility, but here and his accuracy, special, very, very special. I would have liked to seen that season. It would have been a lot more fun than this season has been. And now what they've done is, that team was not bad in a lot of spots. It just needed to be coached right. It needed to fix certain things. They've gone out and gotten 2 good tackles, offensive tackles. They're both gonna be good players. They'll anchor that line. There's no question. Their defense is now you have to take a wrecking ball to it. And have I gained anything with the head coach? I have not. He struck out on the quarterbacks. He's now had to get rid of his defensive coordinator in season. His in-game stuff has been atrocious. I have seen him tighten certain parts of the team. I wanna be fair to him. I've seen some improvement. Special teams have been good. I don't think his team has given up, but they are just so bad in some areas that it's what good is it that they haven't given up if they, uh, have a quarterback who doesn't have a clue and, they're giving up 48 points with the team calling the dog was off in the last 5, 6 minutes. I mean, Jacksonville could have put 55 on them without even blinking. They put 48 on them as it is. Um, do I think that you have your head coach? No, I don't see that. I haven't seen anything that proves that at all. Is the jury still out? Yes. Has this first year, from his standpoint, been a bad one? I think it has been, yes. I don't think he's gained anything where I'm gonna feel any better about him in year 2 than I would in year 1. And they have a lot of work to do. I mean, they have a lot of holes to fill now, and they don't have a quarterback on the roster. Taylor's old, and he probably wants to retire, and they don't have another quarterback on the roster. So it's not been a good year. And I've heard this a couple of times mentioned, this idea of the Giants and Jets trading. I don't see the Giants and the Jets making a trade. If the Giants ever got the first pick, and I don't think they will, I do not think they would trade it to the Jets. Because if just think of the downside if they wind up trading a guy who becomes a franchise quarterback to their New York counterparts. The Giant fans won't ever forgive them. Not that they want the player. They have a quarterback. I understand that. I'm not saying the Giants, if they ever got the first pick, wouldn't be trading out of the first pick. The wise thing to do would be to trade out of the first pick, get value, and then fill your holes. I understand that. But to trade it to the Jets, I think they would be very reluctant to do that. I think they would be much uh, they'd sleep a lot better if they made a trade with someone else for the top pick, gaining almost, if not the same, maybe even as much or even more, who knows? But even if they're equal trades or the Jets are giving them the better trade, unless it was mind-bogglingly better, I would be reluctant to trade them the player because if I ever give them the special player, my fan base is never gonna forgive me just because of what went on, you know? Now, like I said, do I think the Giants have their quarterback? That takes us back to the first question I was asked today, which was, would the Giants consider trading Dart? No. The Giants want to go forward with Dart and a new regime. The name I've heard the most is the Green Bay defensive coordinator. There's no nothing automatic about bringing a coordinator from anywhere. We know that. And that includes him. His resume as a defense coordinator is good. His college resume, obviously, there's reasons behind it, but leaves something to be desired. Hey, that doesn't make him a better candidate or an inferior candidate. But you just don't know unless you bring an experienced veteran guy in here. And that would be my want. And if Baltimore ever thinks of getting rid of, I don't think Tomlin's leaving Pittsburgh under any circumstances. I really don't. And it looks like they're going to the playoffs anyway. If John Harbaugh gets cut loose, I would hire him in a half a second. Not even a half a second. I wouldn't even take that long. I think he's a really good coach. Now, sometimes guys and owners sometimes feel, hey, it's time for someone to leave. Just like, hey, Philly didn't make the wrong move with Andy. They've done very well themselves, and Andy's done incredibly well. So it's worked out for both. They knew Andy was talented when they decided they needed to change. They needed to change the furniture. They needed to make a change. It was time. They knew Andy was going to get another job. They didn't know he was going to do what he has done, build a dynasty, which he did. But the bottom line is we know he's talented. We knew he was incredibly talented. I think the same thing. Now, I'm not saying that Harbaugh is as good as Andy. Andy's going to go down as one of the, couple of best coaches of all time. He's going to have that many wins. He's going to have that kind of resume. If you look at how many teams he has taken to the playoffs and how many seasons he has taken teams to the playoffs, and how many winning seasons he's had and all the things he's accomplished. Remarkable. Remarkable. But I would grab a veteran, proven coach like that for the Giants in a second. I think that's what they need. I think they need, as I've said a bunch of times, feet on the floor, eyes straight ahead. They need discipline. They need leadership. They need a veteran who's done it before. This is a tall order, this job. It needs a strong hand. It does not need the ifs and buts of a coordinator. There are times to take those chances. The Giants have swung and missed a lot. This time, I'd like to deal with a little more experience, with a little more surety, be a little more assured about things. If that opportunity presents itself. We'll see you later.